Hey everyone, this is Witcher the Wizard, and for this video, I'm actually going to be showcasing a service that I've been providing for over a year now. But finally, I've been doing it in person and with select people. But I decided to finally sort of put it out on the on YouTube for the public and see if anybody wants to get a reading from me that way. I've been actually meaning to do this for months now, and for whatever reason, I just kept resisting making this video. Um, you know, I'm not going to get into that, but just as I was thinking about doing this video the other day, I actually had somebody on my channel to sort of surreptitiously ask me if I provided, tarot card readings or intuitive readings of some kind. And so, and I don't even know why, because I do on my channel, with the twin flame thing, I do tarot card pulls, and that to me seems to be perfect for talking about the masculine and feminine energies. But the readings that I do, as you can see, these are not tarot cards. These are rune cards. So these are rune cards from Old Norse Germanic runes. This is called the Elder Futhark. The reason why it's called the Futhark is that that series of letters, the Futhark, actually represents the first series of runes in that alphabet. And then the Elder Futhark means that it was the oldest version of the runes that have been around, and there are different variations of the rune sets, but I am drawn to the Elder Futhark. It's 3 sets of 8 runes, and that has a very specific meaning for me, a very metaphysical meaning, I believe. And so what I've found is that for doing readings for people, the rune cards have just have been incredibly powerful and accurate. And so what the reading is not it's not a divination of what's going to happen for the person. And the reason why I don't do that is because I feel that because we all have free will, it's just too hard to really see what's coming, what's going to be coming into the future for a person, because you can just always change your direction at any time. I mean, it's impossible. But what the rune reading does is it looks at the energies that the person that is surrounding the person and that they're working with very specifically. And so this spread is called the 9 World Rune Spread. It was developed by a man called Michael William Denney, and I'm a big fan of his. I stumbled onto his information back in around April or May of 2017, and I really, as far as like Norse spirituality and how he interprets the rune meanings, has really just gelled with me, resonates with me a lot. And he came up with this, as you can see, it's a 3x3 grid, and he calls it the 9 World Rune Reading. And I've used it. I think it's incredibly powerful. And what you see here is a rune reading that was done for someone I know really well, and they gave me permission to put this out on YouTube to make it public. So, so how it works is you have to kind of know a little bit about the Norse Germanic pre-Christian spiritual tradition, um, and how it was an incredibly magical shamanic spiritual tradition in every sense of the word. Um, they not only had the upper, middle, and lower worlds, but they had 9 worlds. So the Norse Germanic um, spiritual realm reality consisted of 9 worlds. The first world is Midgard. Midgard is in the middle of everything. This is Earth, right? It literally means Middle Earth. That's where Tolkien got Middle Earth from. In fact, Tolkien was a huge researcher and studier of Norse Germanic. Anglo-Saxon is Norse Germanic. I mean, the Angles and the Saxons came down from I don't know, it was like Sweden, went into northern Germany. Parts of the tribe broke off and went further into Germany, and that's the area of Germany called Saxony. And then other parts of those two tribes traveled along the northern edge of Europe and eventually made their way into England, and that's where we get the Anglo-Saxons. And they got into England around 500 AD, or what we would now call CE, Common Era, and they dominated that area until the Norman invasion, much later on, right? So anyway, but not to get away from that. So Midgard is in the center, and it represents you, and it's also it's the keystone energy of the entire reading. And then we would start from the north. North is Niflheim. Niflheim is basically the feminine energy of infinite. It's the feminine energy of infinite potential and infinite order. So one of the most important things to understand about the Norse Germanic spiritual tradition, pre-Christian spiritual tradition, is that they did not think in terms of good and evil. So first of all, it was definitely very an animist view of the universe. Everything was alive. Everything was spirit, and so there was no good and evil. But the two major axial points were order and chaos. And so the Niflheim, which is the mist world, represents the feminine energy of ultimate potential, infinite potential, but order. And then, in the south you have Muspelheim, which is the fire home, and it's this chaotic, roiling, masculine energy that is the energy of creation and change and transformation, right? And in the beginning, when there was nothing, the two energies reached across Ginnungagap, which is the yawning chasm, the void, the ultimate void, touched each other, and then all of creation was made. And then it's sort of this seesaw back and forth between order and chaos, as I believe is our world of, we're always trying to bring things into order, but in order for anything to change, you have to have chaos. Chaos just literally means change. And when it's a little bit of chaos, we like it and we call it change. And when it's a lot of chaos, we don't like it and we call it chaos. But so this represents the feminine energy of potential, and it's where we draw our divine energy and inspiration from. Well, it's where we draw our divine energy from. This is where we get our spiritual energy, right? We draw this in. And then as you move over to Asgard, Asgard is the home of the Aesir. Uh, this is where the energy is starting to coalesce into a something. And so you can think of Asgard as the as part of the superego structure. All right. So I use a 4-part ego structure. There's the conscious, or I should say conscious, not ego. There's the conscious, the subconscious, the unconscious, and then the superconscious. And so Asgard is part of the superconscious, and this is where we get our spiritual path. It's also what the Hindus might call Dharma, right? So it's your Dharma, it's your life path. It's where you get your inspiration from. It's where your sort of spiritual template was drawn from. It's what you decided that you were going to do in this lifetime, and that's where that information is stored. And so you have this infinite potential that coalesces into Plato would call it the world of forms, right? The sort of the idea before it becomes manifest into a something, right? Plato said that anything that exists in real life, for example, a chair, had to exist as a form, as an idea, before it could actually come into manifested reality. So this is what that represents, is the idea of forms. And and because of that, it's sort of unchanging. It's where we can always go back to and sort of reset our spiritual compass, our templates. It's where we get our inspiration from. It's our Dharma. Then as you move down here, this is the world of Jotunheim, which is it's the world of the giants, giant home. And so what does that mean? Well, the giants were the sort of chaotic forces of the universe, but as far as humans were concerned, they were also our driving forces of ambition and thirst and lust and hunger and all of these things that actually move us forward, that we need to move us into action, but that are always sort of we have to watch out for because sort of blind thirst, blind hunger, unchecked, any of these energies go unchecked and then they become destructive. But this also represents the self as you relate to yourself, right? So your internal self. And then you come down here, and this is sort of Svartalfheim, right? So the Black Elves, or you could even call it the home of the dwarves. And this is our unconscious. The unconscious, and the reason why the dwarves live in the unconscious, they live underground, right? The dark elves, they live under the earth. The dwarves, they live in our unconscious, and we don't really have access to them. But the dwarves in Norse mythology is where they made all of the magical items for the gods. Right? The gods had to go to the dwarves to get their magical items, like Thor's hammer. That was made by the dwarves. So the dwarves, this is the home of our manifestation. And the importance of that, the reason why it's in the unconscious, is that the part of you that got programmed before you understood what was going on in the world, those programs live in our unconscious. And that is what drives what we manifest in life. And this is why it's so difficult to change what you do, how your life, how you create your life, because we all create our own lives. You have to, if you're going to get a reading, you have to subscribe to the idea that you create your life. Whatever has happened in your life, you've created this. And you may think that's crazy. I don't want these bad things to happen to me or these painful things to happen. But the unconscious programming, or I should say the programming that lives in the unconscious part of you is what's creating all of that. And so even though your brain, your conscious self is saying, I don't want this, there's a part of you that resides in the unconscious part of you that is saying, oh yeah, this is what we're creating, because we got programmed like this, early in our life. And it's, and so the dwarves dwell in the area of our unconscious, and they create our reality. Okay. And so then you move on to Muspelheim. I've already talked about this. This is the masculine fires of transformation. And this is basically our home of action. So this is our home of energy, where we draw in the spiritual essence of the universe. And then it comes down into Muspelheim to be put into action. And this is our masculine, excuse me, home of creation, transformation, action. All right. And then you come over to Helheim. So if you know anything about the Norse mythology, Helheim is where everyone goes when they die. It's the home of the goddess Hela. And so it is her home. It's Hela's home. It's where she lives. It's where the Christians eventually got the word hell from. But this is spelled with one L, not two. And when you go to Helheim, you don't suffer. This is where you go. It's where the dead go. So there was no idea of punishment and suffering. But in this scheme of things, this represents karma, right? If this represents dharma, this represents, and it's part of the superconscious, right? It's just that this is our potential patterns for our actions, what our soul wants us to do, and then we in our actions, we do our actions in our environment, and the result is our karma. And this is where you're going to find out if you're really in alignment. So what's going on here is, are your actions in alignment with your spiritual pattern, your spiritual template, right? And so here's where you see if you're in alignment or not. And if you're not if you are in alignment, things are going to be good. There's a lot of like wisdom and knowledge and healing. The interesting thing about Hela as a goddess is that she is represented as half of her is this dead rotting corpse, and the other half of her is this beautiful young maiden. And what that represents is if you are in alignment with yourself, and you are in alignment, and when you're in alignment with yourself, you're in alignment with like the love energy. You see her as this beautiful, beautiful maiden. And if you are out of alignment with yourself, if you are in fear, lack, victimhood energy, and going against your nature, you're going to see her as this rotting corpse. But in reality, what she is she is a mirror that reflects back to you what's going on within you. She is a perfect mirror of you. And she has the love and the patience, the ultimate love and patience, to allow you to be in whatever state you need to be in order to work through whatever you need to work through. And she's not going to try and fix you or change you. She's just going to be there with you and be that mirror and let you see yourself in whatever way you need to see yourself on your path and your journey. And so that's Hela. It's actually, people think Hela is very scary, and she's not. She's incredibly loving, ultimately, just ultimate love, right? And patience and compassion. So then we come up to the west, and so this is the home. This is Vanaheim, which is the home of the Vanir gods. So there were two sets of gods, the Aesir and the Vanir, and the Vanir were called the elder gods, but not because they are older than the Aesir. It's because the Vanir gods are the gods of the earth. They're the earth gods. They live in connection with the earth, and connection. They are, along with the Jotnar, the giants, who are considered like the elements of nature. The Vanir are the gods of nature, and they live in earth. And so they are called elder because they live within time. They experience time, and they have that wisdom, the wisdom of being in time and being, in the essence of manifest reality. Whereas the Aesir live outside of time. They're never changing. That's why there's two realms that have the word guard, Asgard and Midgard. And so guard, it's similar to yard, as in Scotland Yard, and it means a fortress, a barrier. So there's a fortress around Earth to protect it from all the various elements around it. And then there's a fortress around Asgard to protect it from time and manifestation. It's perfect and never changing, right? But Vanaheim is the realm of experience. These are the gods of experience and manifested reality. And what they represent is the self in relation to others. Okay? How you relate to the exterior world. This is how you relate to yourself, and this is how you relate to others. And then finally we have Los Alfheim, or the home of the light elves. And so the light elves, you can see it's been kind of this journey of experience. And sure enough, the light elves are very mysterious, but what they represent is the higher self. It is the human that has gone through this journey, this spiritual journey, and arrived to become an ascended master, right? So the light elves are one of the few creatures who never died. And in fact, they have there's the 9 worlds, but it was really the 12 worlds. The light elves actually have 3 homes to themselves that exist above and beyond the 9 worlds. And so they're kind of hanging out here right at the end as ascended masters, helping you on your journey, on your spiritual journey. And so this is what I consider the subconscious. So the subconscious, I use it in a slightly different meaning. The reason why I call it the subconscious, it's just beneath the surface of your conscious. It's not unconscious, even though Sigmund Freud meant, when he coined the term subconscious, he meant it as a completely unconscious. It's since changed. So it's not completely unconscious. You have this, it's just sort of dancing on the edge of your consciousness. And it's where you can connect to your higher self. Because remember, time is just a construct. It's an illusion. So you've already ascended at some point, and you can connect with your higher self and get guidance. And one of the great things that you do is when you perform ritual prayer, all kinds of different rituals to connect with your higher self. And what your higher self does is your higher self then connects to the dwarves and helps to realign and heal the programming with the dwarves, right? So you have to work with the elves, who then indirectly work with the dwarves to reprogram the things in your unconscious that you do not have direct access to. Right? We do not have direct access to the unconscious. It's just completely outside of our ability to connect with. But we can connect with our subconscious, our higher selves, through ritual. And by doing that, we can reprogram our unconscious. We also get inspiration. This is where we get a lot of our guidance, right? And so, so that is the 9 worlds. And then what I do is, when I'm doing the reading, I focus on the person, I focus on their energy, I shuffle, and pull the cards out and start here and work my way around. And then I look at the runes, I look at their placement, not only whether they're upright or reversed, like Raito is reversed. This one's reversed and Othala's reversed. And so not only am I looking to see if they're reversed, but also, or straight up, but in what position. So you can see Othala, which is really like your, Othala represents your oh, why am I blocking on this word right now? It's your inheritance, right? It's your family, it's your inheritance. And so for this person, part of their wounding, or what they're working on, is that they are really neglecting or turning away from their inheritance, who they are, their lineage, where they've come from, the gifts that they have. And this is important because a lot of people who are very sensitive and spiritual are doing this. They're turning away from their gifts for all kinds of different reasons, but mainly for fear of what that has meant in past lives, where they were, tortured and killed for their spiritual gifts, and so they're really kind of running away from that and turning away from that. But when you do that, what you see here is Raito is in reverse. They're not following their right path in life. Raito is it's the right path. It's the earth around the sun. If we didn't have the sun, if we weren't revolving around the sun, and we didn't have that right path where the sun was, shining on various parts of the world and then going, around and giving us those day-night cycles, this would be a dead planet, right? And so just like we depend on that right path of the earth around the sun and those day-night cycles and everything that does for our planet, that's what that represents. If you're not on your right path in life, then you're in really big trouble. And one of the reasons why that would happen is that you're, especially for people who are really here to be spiritual workers of one kind or another, and on a very serious spiritual path, if you are turning away from your inheritance, that's a big problem. So I look at that, and what I'll do is I'll look at these cross sections as they intersect through Midgard. So another interesting one is here. Here we have Isa, which is the rune of self, and we have Gebo, which is the rune of equal exchange. And you can tell this is the rune of self because when you have two Isas crossing each other, it's equal exchange, right? It's giving and receiving. But so the interesting thing is that Gebo is in the position of the self, and Isa is in the position of the other, the interactions with the other. And normally these two are reversed. this is the natural home of Isa, and this is the natural home of Gabo. So you would have equal exchange with your interactions with others, and then you would have the sense of self with your own internal. And because these are reversed like this, it shows that this person has a real difficulty with their own sense of self, and I see that they give too much. They give too much, and they don't have a good sense of their own self. And so what they're needing to do is really give to themselves. They need to give to themselves more so that they can have that equal exchange, so they can really foster that sense of equal exchange, and that they need to sort of individuate themselves from others and not be codependent. So this person is very codependent. Um, and it's not a bad thing. It just is, right? I think that's one of the things that we need to get away from is, as we're saying, oh yeah, you're codependent and this and that, and not use it as a negative label, but just hey, this is an issue that needs to be resolved, because when you do, you'll be a lot happier in life. Um, so, no shame or guilt or anything like that about codependency, or, being too much of a giver, or being, too sensitive or whatever, right? We want to say it just is. And we identify the patterns, and we see if these patterns are helping us or hindering us in our path. And so, yeah. And then you can see here, with, oh gosh, I'm forgetting. Here I am, forgetting the names there. I gotta look up that name. I think it's nope. Well, anyway, I can't remember, but so oops. Yeah, algaes or Elhaz. So this is the rune of basically the shaman. So normally it would be like this, and you would see that it's the human head with the two arms stretched up, and it represents the shaman. And in reverse, in this position, it's showing that there's a lot of energy leaking out of this person. So this person is just really leaking um, spiritual energy tremendously. So definitely needs to strengthen their sense of self and their auras, um, so that all this energy that's coming down into them will stay within them and allow them to do things. And so what's interesting here is that in the area of action, they have the Tiwaz rune, which is the rune of divine guidance and victory. So it's the rune of victory, but victory in the sense of wisdom and guidance. And what it's saying is that action is needed to get this person back into a good energetic state. So, things like exercise and getting out and walking in the nature, doing qigong, yoga, all of these activities, and just being active in their life, especially being active in their life, is going to help rebuild their energy aura and their field, and they're going to stop leaking energy so much. And then so through this whole middle section, you have the Hagalaz. And so a lot of people think of Hagalaz as something negative. First of all, I don't think that there are any negative runes. There are no negative runes. Even, Hagalaz to me is kind of a combination of a tower card and the star card, because it dissolves what's unhealthy for you and helps you heal. It's a very healing energy. So yeah, healing in the sense that it's dissolving away all the bad shit, and it's helping you to heal. Once the bad stuff is gone, it's healing you, right? And so there's a lot of healing going on in all of this. So that's what I do, and what I would go through in my service is create a video like this, and I would sort of step by step go through and explain to you what each rune in its own particular position means, and then how they interact with each other to create this story of the energy that you are currently working with, what it means, and what to do to move forward in a direction that you want to move forward into. So the videos usually run about 45 minutes, and I'm going to have my information in the area below the video to tell you how to get a hold of me and how much I charge and stuff like that. So that's it. If you're interested in getting a 9 World Rune reading from me, I'll have my contact info below. Email me, and I'll do a reading for you. I'd be happy to. I actually, when I first started out doing this, I was scared to death of doing these readings because they're pretty complex. But I love them, and everybody I've been doing them for has just said how accurate and powerful they are. So yeah, that's it. If anybody's interested, there it is. Contact me, and I will love to do a reading for you. All right, thank you, and have a good week.